we have to tell our listeners that if they want to get a copy of the
Mhm.
book of top 10 lists, that the best way is, of course, the easiest way is through Amazon. But if you want to get a signed copy, I'd love to, personally sign it and, inscribe it to whoever orders a copy. You can get it from www.bookoftop10horrorlists.com. And it's 10, the number 10, bookoftop10horrorlists.com.
Hey everybody, this is your host, Vinyl Man Jeb of Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio Podcast. I'm here today with Charles Rosenay, 3 exclamation points, one of the coolest dudes. He runs the Fab Four Fest, and he also used to write for the magazine Good Day Sunshine. He used to ran it as well. Remember, listen closely and learn something new.
Hi, this is Terry Draper from Class 2.
I'm Brendan O'Hare. I used to be in Teenage Fan Club.
Hey kids, this is Vic from Star Collector.
Bone Rat,
Jim Terrell,
Josh Bradley,
Paul Collins of the Nerves, the Breakaways, and the Beat.
I'm Frankie Siragusa, and you're tuning in to Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio Show with Vinyl Man Jeb.
Let's just have a chat down here.
You're listening to Mad Wasp Radio.
Hey, Jeb, great to be here.
Yeah, finally. I know we talked about it at your last Fab Four Fest to get you on here, and some of the groups as well. I got to contact them and get them going because I'd like to, that was a really fun fest as well. So I asked all my guests to start off, kind of ease the conversation about everything. Is the same question. I love doing this. What got you into music?
So I always say my first memory in life, I'm a few seconds older than you here, was seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. And then like the next week when they were on again, I had a Beatles wig on. I had my grandma's ukulele. I was jumping around and lip syncing. It just, you talk to musicians and they'll tell you, that changed their life. It changed my life, even though I'm not a musician.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I'd like to hear the other end of things too, is it's really cool that as not a musician, but you're so into music, which I think is so cool. And I wanted to start with, I have your press kit open as well here with some questions. You had a magazine called the Good Day Sunshine magazine, which is definitely a Beatles reference. What started with that, and what was that magazine about?
Well, so for a while there, I was producing Beatle conventions as opposed to the festivals now. And I had tons. When I say tons, literally hundreds of friends and fans who I was pen paling with because we didn't have email then. and so my day was filled by answering letters and sending stamps, and it went on forever. And I thought, well, you know what? If I put together maybe a newsletter and send that out, once a month, a few times a year, whatever, I'll be able to answer everyone's questions in one place rather than send out, hundreds of literally pen pal responses. And at the time, there were a few really great Beatle fanzines. And there was one that had just kind of stopped or was in hiatus called Strawberry Fields Forever out of Boston. And then there was a Beatle Fan, which was still going and is really amazing. And I thought, well, if I could be somewhere in between those, I would be beyond ecstatic. One was very personal, very fun, very humorous, very, goofy. The other one was very New York Times, the news, the articles, I wanted to be in between those with my personality. And so we launched Good Day Sunshine from I originally wanted to call it Dig It because that was also a Beatles title, but less less Beatle centric. However, there was a Beatle fanzine that I heard was folding up and going out of business called Good Day Sunshine, and I contacted the girl Rosita Rodriguez. She was out of Puerto Rico. I said, you know what? Rather than you fold, I'll take over the name. I'll change the format. I'll take your subscribers and I'll honor your subscription just because I thought, wow, that would give me a great big base of subscribers. Well, it turned out she had 16 subscribers in the world. And, before I knew it, Good Day Sunshine the readership was up to 5,000 subscribers. We were in every Barnes and Nobles and all the Borders books and Walden books and all the bookstores and Tower Records at the time. So, we were publishing like 10,000 every other month. And I was like, oh my God, this consumed me. Here I am producing conventions, producing tours. I'm a DJ, by trade. I'm emceeing, I'm doing parties. I'm taking care of my elderly parents and also literally putting out 80 pages. I'm putting out like a book 6 times a year, every other month. And it was a labor of love, but it lasted about 20 years. And then the internet hit and I figured, you know what, if people want to see this stuff, they can get it online. And it was time to step back from the thing that took most of my time, but I loved it when it was around. Good Day Sunshine was very special.
It's fun that it's like on forums that they have like the same forums like deep in the internet. I just found Good Day Sunshine like about how like the whole process was and everything. And it's just so cool. It says here like as Good Day Sunshine member subscriber, you get 5 giant issues, typically 80 pages each. Wow.
Well, so it was actually, you know why it was 5 issues? Because once a year we would do an audio edition. So it was five printed issues, plus the Christmas issue was an audio edition that Bill Last, who's a Beatles archivist, and him and I would get together and play rare tracks that no one in the world had heard that we had access to. So it was pretty special. You know, it was kind of a gray area because we were sending copies, you know, to Paul and to George and to Ringo and thinking, oh, I hope they read these and I hope they love them. But, you know, whenever the audio edition came out, oh, no, we wouldn't send that because we don't get in trouble.
Yeah, you know, because it's deep. Yeah, you send the written form because the written form is fine. But yeah, I got you. Yeah, it's so much fun. Definitely love doing this show, and I love you know, changing it up a bit, which this is the first time I think I'm interviewing someone that isn't a musician. And if I'm wrong, wow. But a music lover yourself is amazing. So I love it.
If truth be told, I played Davy Jones in Monkey Mania, where I was the lead singer, had to play a little bass, and certainly rock the maracas and tambourines. You know, quasi musician.
I just want to, you know, I wanted to ask you this. Like, this is a very tough question. This might be something you may be like, I'm never going to be able to answer this. But do you have a favorite era of the Beatles or a favorite album that you seem to go to more than the other Beatles albums?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'm always going to the bootlegs and the more obscure stuff. For me to put on, you know, Revolver or the White, it just doesn't happen. And the fact that I live and breathe Beatles so many times of the year, you know, for a week or two, I'm in Liverpool and it's 24/7 Beatles. So, you know, it's not like, well, yeah, it's time to hear Andrew Bird Can Sing. I love it, but I don't need to hear it. I'd love to hear alternate versions of them. So those are my go-tos more than anything else is, you know, the rare tracks, the deep cuts.
And that's Badfinger for me because I'm such obsessed with Badfinger that it's like I don't listen to the albums too much. I'm listening to like Without You, Japanese release of all the demos and outtakes from Top of the Pops and stuff because I'm so into them. Yeah, it's like I've already known. I'll still, you know, if they come on, I'm enjoying it. And I'm recently picking up like the Japanese issue CDs because they're collectible, and also the pressings are a little different. You can hear the sound a little different, and it's pretty cool.
Right. There's always different, you know, masterings of them, even with Beatles.
Yeah, and I mean, you've met so many cool folks. I mean, I've seen you with Mickey Dolenz, all these really cool folks. Do you have anyone? I know this is like a tough one. You might somebody coming after you. Why wasn't your favorite? But do you have anybody that you have like a crazy story behind meeting, or any cool stories behind like a singular person or a couple that you've met?
Well, you know, the first time meeting, I met Peter Tork because he was a guest at my Monkeys convention in the early 80s. But I hung out with the guys in 86 because I booked myself into the Concord Hotel in the Catskills where they were rehearsing for their reunion. And that was, you know, a real coup on my part. You know, if you book into the hotel and you're there all week, well, you're going to run into them. You're going to hang out with them. We wound up, you know, eating dinner with the guys, playing softball with them. So that was pretty special for me, never thinking that I would ever, you know, have close encounters of that level with Beatles. But of course, in '89, I did get to meet Paul McCartney for the first time. And that's got to be the most.
I'm seeing him in June. As you were like, you have to go. Well, my dad surprised me. He goes, "You're going." He goes, "We're going." So we saw the Stones a couple years back. He goes, "I got it. We're gonna go to Syracuse and go see." So hopefully I'll be able to meet Paul Davey because he's doing the whole thing there too for the Syracuse Beatles Cuse, I should say.
Right.
So excited to finally meet him as well, since I've been in communication with him for a while just to get Joey on the show as well.
Yes.
So it's been really cool to finally, you know, full circle the effects, and been friends with you for a while, and been excited to finally go to one of the Fab Four Fest, which is my next question. When did the Fab Four Fest start? Was that originally like way back before the magazine, or is this more of a common now place?
No, so the order of things was I started doing the Beatle conventions in '78. I started doing the magazine in '80. I started doing my Beatle tours to Liverpool in '83. That's kind of the order of things. But the conventions peaked like in the mid '80s where we're getting 5 to 10,000 people per show. In '84, we did one in Miami that drew like 50,000 people. It was insane. You can't even imagine that. When I thought, well, so many of the Beatle guests, I've had them all, and most of them are either too old or passing away. So I thought, was what a convention is about. It's about getting great guests, and it's about the vendors and the memorabilia. Well, you can get all the memorabilia on eBay and on Mercari and all the sites, Discog. You can get them everywhere. For the guests, there weren't a lot of. So I thought, you know what? It's the Beatles is all about the music. Let's shift from the conventions to the festivals. And my last two real conventions were in 2009 and 2010. I did like two, goodbye conventions to show kind of my kids what dad used to do and how the conventions ran. And then it shifted to the festivals because rather than, have one band, well, now we have 10 bands. And each band is playing different eras of their music, solo stuff, rarities. It's just so special and so different. And I think it's more, multi-generational. It's that outdoor festival type
Yeah,
atmosphere.
and it's very interesting to like have the different bands come up and you go, oh, I know that band, but I didn't know they did Beatles covers, and it's like, and they
Yeah,
do their own spin on the songs, and it's
right.
amazing too. And I
Great.
really liked Zilch. I was because it was so cool to have something that wasn't Beatles but very Beatles related, which is the Monkees, of course. And
Yes.
Zilch was awesome. There were a lot of really good groups that day, and it was just so much fun. There, even meeting the fake Paul McCartney, my friend Mike.
Oh, Mike Miller's the
Oh
best.
yeah, I actually looked up his time on Kimmel, I believe, or was it Fallon? I can't remember. I always get the two. There's two Jimmys on late night, and it kills me. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I loved seeing his clips there. Very cool, and and it's just cool that your first book isn't Beatles related. I'm very intrigued here. So we'll get right into that because that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're here for. But I wanted to definitely explain you so people know that this is actually kind of a cool debut. Is not a Beatles. Like people expect you to do the Beatles,
Right.
and really exciting. Your first book is called The Book of Top 10 Horrors Lists. So how did this come about?
Well, people always said, when are you going to do your Beatles book? When are you going to write a thing about all your Beatle guests, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wow. So for how many years was I doing Good Day Sunshine? In my brain, I was putting out a book every other month. I was putting out 6 books a year. And I said, I never would do a book. I know how much goes into it. But then, the pandemic hit. And I said, I'm not DJing. I'm not producing festivals. I'm not doing the tours. Jeb, I'm not doing anything I do, and I've got to do something. My creative juices were flowing. Well, for a while there, along with the Beatle tours, I also do Dracula tours to Transylvania, and I'm a big horror geek. I really love the monster stuff, the Universal, all the classic stuff. And I thought back then, a good way to keep in touch with fans, unlike Good Day Sunshine, which was printed, well, now there's the internet. So I started something called National Horror Happenings, and we would do a daily update, whether it was a review of an old monster movie I saw or a preview of a horror movie coming out, whatever. It was a tidbit. And then somewhere down the road, I don't know, but I got a top 10 list of somebody's favorite top tens. And now, mind you, as you know, I know all these, rock and rollers, actors, celebrities. So I started actually pursuing them and saying, hey, what's your favorite top 10, horror movies? And I would be getting these amazing lists from the coolest
And
pop
it's
culture.
something different because they don't expect it. They're not expecting the like something that's not. Oh, you're not asking me about my music. Oh, cool.
Right.
It's something different. Yeah, of
Right.
course.
And they
Yeah.
loved it. And, and some of them gave me the most amazing lists. Well, here we are isolating, we don't want to catch COVID. So I'm up late and I'm finding that I've had about 80 of these lists. And I'm thinking, wow, if I get like 20 more, I can put out a book of 100 of them. And sure enough, I just wrote to a handful of people who were friends and said, hey, here's what I got. I wanted to, would you, and it was like, they came in like that. It was really awesome. So I thought, well, I have enough Beatle friends and Beatle people. I have to make there some Beatle content. And sure enough, there's 9 Beatle chapters in there. There's 9 lists that are connected to the Beatles. So a tenth of the book is somehow Beatles, but the great joy is that it's, a book of horror lists, but it's not so much a horror book as much as it's a celebrity book, because you're getting all these celebrities and rock stars giving their favorite horror themes.
I'm looking at the list here. You got Gary Puckett, who I just saw live with the Happy Together tour at Oakdale, which was awesome. That was my first show I got to work, so it meant a lot because that's my music. That is like so cool that it tied together for me. Oh, you even have Mitch Schechter of the Ripcords too. Very cool. Yeah. I'm friends with him on Facebook. Ron Dante of the Archies. Vanilla Fudge's Vince Martell there too. Yeah, this is awesome. A lot of cool. This is Dennis Dunaway. All right, I met him too, so this is really cool. And then Mickey Nolan's of the Monkees, Gloria Gaynor. Wow, there's a lot of really cool ones here.
Gloria Gaynor is a fun one because, her biggest hit was I Will Survive. And in my intro to her, I go, well, that could have been the title of every Lost in the Woods. I try to tie in like funny intros that would, make it more cohesive and reasons why they're in it. See, every book isn't just a list. Every chapter isn't just a list. What you get is the bio that I've written that, hopefully ties in as to why they're in the book. A great photo of them, of the artist who's giving me the list. The list with reasons why. Only a handful of people like Pete Best from the Beatles and Gloria Gaynor did I really let, just give me a list without give reasons. But 99% of the ones in there.
Yeah, you want it to be effort.
They gave notes as to why. And then I would, let's say someone picked, I don't know, House of a Thousand Corpses or whatever film, I would try to get, a still from that film and include it in the article. So you got a really, each one of the 100 chapters, it's pretty special. And then, you mentioned all those rock people, but people go through the book and they go, oh my God, I forgot about this person, or, oh, I love this person. And they want to see what they chose as their favorite horror.
And then what might be cool too, as a fan of some of these, they might go, oh my God, I love that movie too. And it definitely is like the fans' eyes, which I love. That's why I do this. I definitely do this show for a reason. And the reason is I love interviewing guests that, come on, and then they make, the best part of it is if it's fun for me, of course, I'm interviewing people that I really look up to, and also people that are newer, but I really enjoy, like the interview I did with Matthew Cause yesterday, which will be up before this one. So they'll be like, oh, it was right next to each other, but they're months apart, weeks apart. But I interviewed with Matthew yesterday, Not a Surf, and I was just really inspired. But he said a lot of things that could help a lot of people nowadays, and I think that's just so cool as a fan's eye, that I'm not like sitting there going, I just want the scoop. I'm seeing this as a fan, and I'm seeing this as something where I love their music because it helps me get through stuff. I want to know why they wrote this. I want to know little things there and there. So I feel like that's with you. It's a cool idea to have a book like this. And then to have something where they're like, oh my God, I watched the same movie. And it's like, that's pretty cool. I mean, you have William Shatner in here too, which is really cool. I just watched his celebrity roast. That was very interesting with George from trying to, there's real name there, Costanza from Seinfeld, but it's
so easy to
it's so easy to make him George, but it's Jason Alexander. There we go, Jason. There we go. But it was so funny to watch him get roasted. But at the same time, I was like, damn, the freaking, they really roasted George Takei more than they roasted him. But it was interesting. But that's got to be cool. I mean, a friend of mine, John Auer of the Posies, worked with William Shatner on his Has Been album. So there's that's a really cool connection there.
Well, Shatner is the only person and the only represented artist who got 2 chapters in the book. I thought he was like, such a score, such a coup for getting him in the book, that not only did I list his favorite top 10s, but I also wrote my own favorite top 10 William Shatner genre roles, because he was in The Devil's Reign, he was in Empire, he was in, Terror at 37, Twilight Zone. He was
also in that cop show too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm forgetting the name.
T.J. Hooker.
T.J. Hooker, that's right. Yeah.
That didn't make the list because it wasn't really a horror theme, but
no, yeah.
yeah. And I do a weekend show. There's something called Monkey Mania Radio, which is an All Monkeys channel on live365.com, and I do the weekend interview show. So whereas you get to interview cool guests from from every aspect, I try to get people who have any kind of Monkeys connection, and that's been That's been a fun ride, yeah, because we're talking to people like Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods and Gary Putt. They tell me their monkey stories, and it's
Yeah, so
really
as
been
a fan, you're like, I could share mine with this other person who's like huge too,
Yeah, and it's what you said before. Sometimes certain people are asked the same things over and over about their music, about their career. So when they can share maybe a horror top 10 list, or then talk about a different group who they're friends with or played with, they kind of like that. It's just a change of pace.
It's a change of pace. And I was thinking about that for my show at some point, start interviewing actors and actresses about their music taste. Like I'm right now working on trying to get Ryan Roxy on, who works with Alice Cooper, so that I could somehow get Johnny Depp on at some point. So I could talk to him about his music, but also, mention his movies at the end. But I really want to know his music taste. I would love to get Tom Kenny on to talk about music, but then bring up SpongeBob towards the end. There's such cool ideas that could be happen when you make them think outside the box that isn't their usual pace, which I love. And I respect that big time. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm always around. You're welcome to come co-host an episode of Unlikely Places anytime. I would love to have a nice Beatles, Monkeys. I'd be heaven then, and I'd love to have you on. But thank you for coming on. Well, actually, this is a perfect size one that I could throw this whole episode into on air, so I could throw it right on for you. We'll throw it right at the end of the second hour or something like that, and I'll play some Beatles and Monkeys around it because I'll be happy.
And we have to tell our listeners that if they want to get a copy of the book of top 10 lists, that the best way is, of course, its easiest way is through Amazon. But if you want to get a signed copy, I'd love to, personally sign it and, inscribe it to whoever orders a copy. You can get it from www.bookoftop10horrorlists.com, and it's 10, the number 10, bookoftop10horrorlists.com.
You're tuned into Mad Wasp Radio, so don't forget where you are. Don't change that dial.